So welcome to our introduction to Judaism. Now, often when Christians think of Judaism, of course, they're thinking about the Judaism found in the Bible and the Old Testament, which is surprisingly referred to as Biblical Judaism, right? You got it. So after all this, of course, what most people hear on a regular basis when they read the Bible and attend church, that's what they get. So we hear Abraham, we got Isaac, we got Jacob, we have all the great patriarchs. We have the flight out of Egypt and the Passover, of course, which commemorates that every year. We hear of the Jews wandering in the desert for 40 years because Moses is leading them. Moses, of course, being a guy, and guys don't know how to ask for directions. Now this, of course, commemorated with the Feast of Tabernacles. And of course, another central event, we have Moses receiving the 10 Commandments, commemorated with the Feast of Passover. So we hear the coming into the land, the stories of the prophets, we hear of the kings, we got Saul, we got David, we got Solomon, which these are the only three kings when the whole of Israel is united in one kingdom. Then of course the kingdom splits, we got Judea, we got Israel, we have the Assyrian captivity, we got the Babylonian captivity, we got the Maccabees in the times of the Greeks, we got scribes and Pharisees in the times of the Romans, the New Testament and Christ. We hear of Daniel in the lion's den, Ruth coming back with her mother-in-law, Esther, Judith, Tobias. And so this is what people think of when they do think of Judaism. It is not the Judaism that we have today, though. So what we have today, is of course related to what is written about in the Old Testament, just as Christianity is related to the Old Testament. But Rabbinic Judaism, which basically developed about the same time as Christianity did, holds to not only the written Torah, the 10 Commandments that Moses received, but also the oral Torah, which, received at Sinai as well, but not written down until the Second Temple period. So we're going to look at a little bit at what this means and how it's different. But the important thing to realize, of course, is that Jews today don't live as the biblical Jews did. There's a slight difference. So one can't simply read the Old Testament and understand Judaism. That's like saying that I read the New Testament and all of a sudden I know everything about Christianity. There is certainly in the New Testament the history and the beginnings of Christianity, but it doesn't explain the divisions that took place, the tensions, the debates, the important figures, the ones that helped to shape the destiny as Christianity reacted to the various historical events. Same thing with Judaism, right? There's divisions, there's differences, there's central figures, there's reactions to history. All of this helped to shape the Rabbinic Judaism as we understand it today. And so we need to understand these divisions and how they exist. And as we see that, we will come to a better understanding of Judaism and how it relates to Christianity and how we can help it in our understanding of Islam, since Judaism is always central between Islam and Christianity. Now, these two religions are fascinating, and it's really interesting to see how they come through one to the other. But the two of them, both Islam and Judaism, are of course, along with Christianity, referred to as the Abrahamic religions. All three of these religions hold Abraham as a figure in reverence in a slightly different way, but they all look to Abraham. But even in this looking to Abraham, we see things differently. So as we come through, we need to actually look at and try and understand them. But clearly, if I'm not a Jew, I'm not saying it from the inside, just as if I'm not a Muslim, I'm not saying it from the inside. So all of this needs to be thought of so we can look at it and respect them as fellow believers, people who hold to a monotheistic belief in a creation, a God who created, a God who calls us and is willing to reward or punish us. But at the same time, there are certainly differences, which is why a Christian is not a Jew. If there wasn't any differences, it wouldn't make a difference. Jews or Christians or Muslims, and why do we care? But we do have to keep in mind that there are divisions, that they do have a slightly different focus. So as opposed to the beliefs, we focus a little bit more on law, what we do. We have to look at all these different things to understand Judaism and Islam, of course, because we don't want to just go by the headlines. We want to be able to go below the surface and understand things. How? Why? But why do they do this? How do they say this? What is happening? Why does this happen? And of course, you can't go back in time. Unfortunately, I don't have a DeLorean or a time machine. Dr. Who's not around to help me with that one. So we can't go back in time and figure out exactly what happened. It just doesn't work. So we have to try and look at history and understand whys and talk to people. But truly the best way of actually understanding other religions is to talk to the people that practice them. I mean, as a Christian, you would of course say that the best way to understand Christianity is come to church with me, right? Well, same thing about Judaism, same thing about Islam. Talk to them, get to know them. And of course, at this point in time, we are way over what we're going to be editing out as far as introductory videos, because the teleprompter stopped probably about 10 minutes ago. I've just been going on and on and on. So.